You see Bumblebee? Now make him red! Oh! I'm sorry, Eric, Andre. Imagine a company trying to make Bumblebee into an actual product and shoving it in our face. Okay, imagine a company trying to make Bumblebee into an actual product in red and shoving it in our face. That's not Cliffjumper. Or Roadburn. That's essentially Stinger and how it came to be. Developed by KSI, Decepticon Cliffjumper was meant to be a complete upgrade to his rival. Man-made, but like all things mankind creates, it does more harm than good as Galvatron takes over the KSI bots for his own army. While we did have a one-step changer, we never got a proper class Stinger with the Pagani form. Takara did a deluxe figure, but only as a repaint with the wrong car. Now with Studio Series bringing characters from the many lines, Stinger got another chance for himself. Is it a he? Stinger transforms into a Pagani Huayra in red. Beautiful car in person, but in toy form, it's seen better days. Some of the lines don't feel as sharp as they should, and all the panel lines, joints, and gaps give me Universe Ironhide flashbacks. I feel like there's something about the toy that comes across as plain and uninspired. I guess it comes with the size and engineering. It is a lot to work with, but you can tell it's struggling because transforming it is hardly worth it. Certain components like the waist opening up, the legs, and the hood just barely go where they're supposed to and feel like it'll implode on itself like 100 rubber bands around a watermelon. And because of that, I can't admire the complex transformation with things having to stretch or reach to function. Little tip, to open the front, I usually try to just untab the bumper and swing out holding as close to the base joint as I can. I hear the smaller hinges could snap. If you are lucky, you might be able to have some fun with the car if the trash underneath doesn't scrape the floor. Fun fact, if you scratch a plate with it, the sound will break your forks. Also, just a quick note, I had to sand down that tab just a little bit to round it off to be able to pry open that section. If you want more garbage, you could take the fidget spinners and plug them underneath for storage. Two stick out on the side, but as the film shows, weapons in the car form isn't out of the question. Besides, Studio Series doesn't have a good track record with weapons. Brawl! I guess there's nothing wrong with the molded detail made for the alt mode, but the paint really needs to help some of it stick out. And the Decepticon logo on the front? KSI conspiracy? How bad are they? How far back does this go? Did they build the Titanic? Did they build the iceberg? This alt mode is just too small for this to work. I get the scaling with the line is affecting it, and I should be glad they did it, Pagani, but it leaves more to be desired. Robot mode. This swirl of red, black, and, well, not much else, has a few interesting tricks to the transformation, but is it worth it? I'm glad they got the wheels in the chest, but the resulting shoulders make the round head feel out of place. I guess the bumpers on top help the proportions. While we're on the chest, you see that little screw in there? Well, that's on a little peg that allows this to rotate, and you can see that little tab of clear plastic. Well, that tab allows it to actually snap into place. I had to shave off the ends of this little tab and round it off so that it allows it to go into place without breaking it or stressing that little peg. And I also unscrewed this just a little bit so it stays connected, but it doesn't break. It really seems so clunky that when they did the KSI Sentry, it seemed to fit better. But don't tell anyone because I'm stupid. Also, while the scale works with the current line, the sad part of Age of Extinction was it wasn't heavily focused on smaller to larger deluxes. So Bumblebee is a bit taller. Said to be more advanced in every way, just not size. Is KSI Hasbro? Head sculpt has some decent lines up close, but the lack of sharpness and color really blurs it to almost nothing. Although the green eyes do give off some venomous evil stare that fits. Did someone say, articulation? Ball jointed head, ball joint shoulders, rotation below, elbow bend, ball joint hips, rotation below, hinge knee, and foot moves. Articulation is okay, some poses work better than others though. Legs don't have much to offer, not hindered by the kibble, but by the extra plastic on those creamy thighs. Let's take a look at the accessories. Stinger includes 4 of the same throwing discs that can be attached to the back like his on-film design, or in the arm because that's what you do with those. I think this is based on concept art, but do we need this? Do we want this? Do I want this? Bet you didn't expect Beyblades! Speaking of the back, it sticks out very far from the toy, but with the distance and joints, it gets out of the way of the arms easily. He's also got a canopy crumpled up into, I think it's a gun? I guess we don't have to deal with the typical windows on the back, but it looks like a deformed clam. Big, meaty claws! Oh damn. This knockoff even has fake Sonic shoes. I'm glad to have Stinger in the collection to simply say I have one in the proper scale and alt mode, but it's struggling to keep up. The scale and complexity keeps me from admiring the tricks, and I just get frustrated. Not to say he doesn't have anything of value, but he's not worth scalper price, and I'm glad I got it for a deal. If you're missing something, or your Age of Extinction collection needs more Decepticons, this might be something you'll want. You could probably wait for the upscale knockoff version. When a medical official is carrying a saw that large, I question his profession. From the very first film, Ratchet joins the Autobot crew set on Earth as the chief medical officer. He also seemed to be an advisor and work closely with Optimus Prime. With his know-how, he proves useful to the band of warriors. While the film style changes from the original source, the film version seems fit for the character given the style. He's still a loyal Autobot, disgusted by the Decepticons, and will stand with what's right. Ratchet transforms into a Hummer modified to become an emergency ambulance in bright highlighter green. More colorful compared to its original deco, but heavy duty, seemingly able to get in and out of a messy, debris-filled road. There's something so nostalgic with this, but I feel filthy saying that. Ratchet was in the infancy of the Bayverse. It was all innocent fun until it became too loud for it to realize it was too loud. It's like the Bandicam watermark on old videos. It's cringe, yet beautiful, but now we have OBS. Don't be deceived by the lack of paint applications on the minor details, because there's paint on the lights on the front, on top, and even, brace for it, back window paint. I mean, it might not be exciting to you, but the world suddenly realized nothing is impossible. Sure, the hands and head are visible, but they don't really bother me. I like the front bumper, the bars on top, though I can't seem to get them to tab in right, and the shovel on the top, in case someone has a medical issue involving lack of a shovel. Green breaks up with the paint versus the molded color, and the red breaks up from the hinges, but I love the Autobot Search and Rescue and Fire Department logos. You could also take the saw and plug it to the side or on top as either a satellite or a parasol for a spare tire. I would say this car is small. I mean, do the creators know what a Hummer is? But I'm having a lot of fun, so like a stupid kid, I forgot what I was saying. I guess my biggest complaint is the side panels don't seem to fit, but after sanding the sides, I'm not bothered. Ratchet is probably not a highlight in the studio series, but with the nostalgia combined with the inoffensive, harmless vehicle, this is alright. Robot mode. Ratchet really shows why other Studio Series figures feel lacking. Look at the strong design, no kibble out of place, everything has somewhere to go. It is efficient, elegant, clean, and what the hell is on his ass? We don't have time for a gurney. Place him on my ass flap. It's the only way! It looks pretty good, a little basic with the oversaturated color. I think the lower arms need some paint and it's too blocky, but look at the shoulders and how they incorporate the alt mode. And the body looks fairly good. Now, let's pick it up and show what ruins it. If you're looking for a stiff, firm doctor, then 4chan, because this isn't the way to go. Chest bumper doesn't lock in, so it's always moving. This joint in the arm is always out of place when you're trying to move the elbow, and the hips are incredibly annoying. Unless you're looking for something with a little boogie in its ass flap. Head looks okay, but with the collar and lack of separation of color, the whole thing just blends with itself. It does have some paint, but it really doesn't help much. The mold on the actual face is good, and the eyes are a nice painted blue color. Did someone say articulation? Head rotates, ball joint shoulders, forward to back, rotation below, elbow bend, ball joint hips, rotation below, knee bend, hinge, and ball jointed foot. If the shoulders don't look awkward and the loose joints are workable, posability is okay if you can manage. And with his more simple transformation, he's actually more fun and less stressful than some other figures. Also, that's a whole lot of leg. Love the joint in the leg that runs through it and turns as you move it like mecha-live figures. I think with the simplicity, they can get away with making this a tall deluxe. So even though people might want him to match up with Ironhide, they come pretty close. But Ironhide should be a beefy-roni. Let's take a look at the accessories. Ratchet comes with a buzzsaw painted in silver with just a peg. Admittedly, it would be nice if it could spin, but at least there's no clunky mech tech gimmick. Plugs into the hand, or more appropriately, the side of the arm. You ever wonder who cuts the pizza in the Pizza Hut commercials? It's not him. Sorry to disappoint. Why does he have 2 thumbs? If you have a problem with the bag, there is a fix out there, but I think they did this for a reason, because if they left it on that panel, it would warp on the hinge. Also, I wouldn't be able to say ass flap as much, and I need more of a reason to say it. Ratchet has a few downsides that makes him undesirable to a lot of people, which I can see why, especially if people already have a Dark of the Moon version. However, I gotta say, I'm surprised this is actually alright. Simplicity works with this. I don't feel like I'm gonna break it with other figures getting too small for the work put in. Ratchet is an enjoyable, easy toy that manages to pull off some interesting notes, and I think it's good. Not all heroes wear capes, just a roll cage on the ass. Hold it, didn't we do this? Wait, there's 2? Oh! Wonderful! Crowbar was one of the 3 dreads introduced in Transformers Dark of the Moon, a group of predatory savage Decepticons creating havoc anywhere they go. Crowbar has a more humanoid shape, but with the longest dreads formed behind. During the film's toy line, Crowbar only received 2 Legion-class toys, a main retail release with more accurate colors, and a dark blue exclusive pack repaint. People wanted a Crowbar, even going so far to get a second crankcase to fill the void, until Studio Series brought the character. Crowbar transforms into a Chevy Suburban security vehicle. Obviously staying quiet isn't their idea, as the sirens on these things warn for their upcoming approach. Except for some slight tones, this is very similar to Berserker, and I think that was on purpose. Bet you didn't even realize I just swapped them. Light paint applications are similar, size seems right, mostly due to the remolded parts. Even the hinge and Decepticon logo is familiar. I bet you can't even tell which one is which. Nobody knows. Place your guess and— oh, don't look at this! Really? I mean, that's the best you could do? It doesn't even sit well. It's all jumbled and warping inside the figure. I can hear those things sparking and scraping the pavement. I don't want to say lazy, so I won't, but try actually using some damn effort. Weapons can plug into the side just like Berserker, but now you can't add it underneath? Okay, now they're trying to piss me off with the weapon storage. This isn't a conspiracy anymore. Hello, government? Did my computer? That's a joke. I would be alright with it if they took the time to fix the tabbing issues. Despite retooling a lot of the figure, it still carries similar problems. So, let this be a lesson. If your figure has tabbing issues, on the next one, just make different issues, and it'll be good. Hardly worth getting into alt mode, too much work, but it's not impossible if you have the patience. However, keeping it in alt mode might stress the rubber to warp, so it shouldn't stay in car form. Robot mode. Crowbar in robot mode shows the aggressive, playful presence that'll leave a mangled raccoon at the doorstep. His sharp edges and dark tone is a horrifying way to create a Decepticon. But just because he's a savage doesn't mean he can't have fabulous hair. 2 on each side underneath the kibble and 4 from behind the head that covers the shell crap that they didn't bother to care about. Same as Berserker, except they didn't give it a place to stay, so it's always moving. Looks good next to Berserker, but the dark gray and red doesn't feel right. Don't worry, they re-released it with a more accurate deco. And called it Crankcase. I'm starting to think this line is awful. That head sculpt shows the potential of the films when they're actually creative. Look at the beady eyes and huge teeth. Scary, but Tim Burton's scary. Did someone say, articulation? Ball jointed head, hinged neck, shoulder hinge, ball joint shoulders, rotation below, elbow bend, ball joint hips, rotation below, knee joint, and some foot movement if the kibble lets it. Posability is okay, though the head is way too loose. I will say the wider feet are much better to compare to Berserker. If you want, you can flip the wheels down part way and make taller heels, but being the only issue they seem to fix, that would be dumb of me, wouldn't it? Let's take a look at the accessories. It's just the same spike weapons as Berserker again, which I guess this did actually come from the Dread, so arguing would be pointless, but hey, that's fandom! You can use the tab to attach it to the back for storage, but you see the peg? You can attach it to the hand. Theoretically, science is getting back with us, but they barely fit and fall out too easily. Screw it, sidearm. Cool red mark on the chest. Batman Beyond? Those are some chunky forearms. They're smooth. Damn you, Morpheus! This figure isn't that good. If you need another Dread, especially Crowbar, I guess this is okay, but the figure is not fun. It either fixes issues, causes more issues, or just has different but same issues than his original retooled figure. Still creepy to look at, and if the film he's based on is one of your favorites, this looks good next to other characters in display. Crowbar was a figure I wanted, and I think I'm glad he's got a main toy, but it could be a lot better than this. Is it good that I didn't do this review with the Jamaican accent? You know what they say, if you don't succeed, don't color it brown! Not an Autobot, not a Decepticon. Lockdown doesn't directly associate with any side. His interest is only in the hunt, so if anything catches his attention, expect him to go out and get the job done. Without remorse, Lockdown gained a following from his animated appearance, which heavily inspired the film character. With his ship and crew, Lockdown goes around taking whatever he wants without asking. Lockdown transforms into a Lamborghini Aventador, this time in a sharp charcoal gunmetal color with dark windows. No longer that edgy animated design with the spikes and color markings, but edgy in that society doesn't get us type of way. The Lamborghini logo is replaced by a golden shield, and I would have loved to see some white under the clear headlights, but I'll take the red taillights anyway. This sleek vehicle is designed for stealth in the shadows, perfect for the hunter who doesn't want to be seen. Unfortunately, nothing color-wise lets it pop, but it's not meant to. Besides, look at the sharp, aggressive details of the vehicle, and low curve that remains wide. The proportions seem fit, and you can hear the roar of the engine. Plus, if you want more colors, you don't. Wind resistant, and if that's not dangerous enough, the wheels are pinned in for a completely free spin. So let it roll, and it might compete in the Indy 500 to defeat Animated Snail. Weapons can plug into the side with the tab, but go away. I think my biggest issue is the tabbing on the sides. Getting the hands hooked around the panel is difficult, and you almost have to warp the figure just to slip them in. Most concerning part of the transformation, but once it's in, the alt mode is amazing. The colors don't scream, but that's the intention. It's a fearsome machine with grace and stealth, perfect for the character. Not to mention, the alt mode does the real vehicle justice, and the molding impresses me at every detail. Robot mode. proves that you can make something simple and function and still make it manageable. The details and proportions work a lot better than the official Age of Extinction toy, which had a nearly needless way to convert and resulted in a mashed troll turd. Is it weird that the best lockdown toy before this was the swirly durly changer? It's funny, if you had me draw lockdown based on memory, I wouldn't know what to do, but as soon as I see this, I'm like, that's a lockdown. I start to recognize and pinpoint certain aspects right away, like the ammo on the shoulders. Not sure where the huge turtle shell came in, but at least the arms look better. Was that so difficult? Head sculpt is horrifying, like a robotic Skeletor. Not charming Skeletor, but decrepit should be on a list Skeletor. Maybe not for everyone, but he has a huge skull with a big brain and small beady eyes. He seems like he worked late nights and needs a nap. Did someone say, articulation? Ball jointed head, hinge joint, ball joint shoulders, rotation below, ball joint elbow, waist rotation, ball joint hips, rotation below, bend, and foot moves. Posability is average. Alright with the arms until the shoulders hit anything. Hips tend to hit stuff but is workable. However, the main offender has to be the neck that struggles against everything surrounding it. The collar is always tagging it. That explains the back shield. Don't forget, you could puff out the chest to attract a mate and look tough. Alpha male move. Let's take a look at the accessories. Lockdown comes with 2 weapons used in the film. The first is a pile of junk that plugs to the side or covers the hand and opens to become a hook. Proper given the origins of the character. I just wish it could lock in place. This was used to drag Optimus Prime and hold up Sherlock in Game of Shadows. He also comes with this blade that can be held or attached to the side. With Lockdown's multiple arsenal he can use, I think these weapons are properly added. Too bad he doesn't have the gun face, unlike the probably best just to forget that it happened. I understand there's Peru Kill, a third-party figure that outshines this in so many ways, but as a Hasbro mainline release, this is actually a tall figure when set next to other figures in the line. If it wasn't for some aspects that get in the way of the articulation, this would be a fun toy. Managing the neck, shoulders, and hips can be a problem, and honestly, he looks a little static. I think he needs something in the torso to look more intimidating in motion. As it is, him alone is intimidating by his style. Weapons are great, and I think he could work with the Last Night Optimus mold. If you're looking for a better Lockdown mold, this is probably something to get, even if he does look like Two-Face was burnt again. Jazz. You like the B-movie? The first lieutenant of the Autobots, Jazz is one fun-loving Autobot who quickly grew a liking to Earth. With his good heart, Jazz can go from a bouncing cool beat to a serious strict tone when needed. Jazz was the smallest Autobot in the group to arrive, but that doesn't mean he'll be afraid to take on those machines much larger than him. Jazz is out there ready to take on any Decepticon, just to do what's right. Jazz transforms into a modified Pontiac Solstice. Yes, I actually do know what type of car this is, and it's a weird-looking car. Small, yet somewhat round, and to be honest, I think this works. Sure, people might have wanted a Porsche, run what wiki you tease, but I think it fits the character. The slick curves, bubbly standout proportions, and wicked silver deco may not be the favor of the G1ers, but I think this fits for a more modern film design. Transparent blue windows give him a little color, and it really works for the headlights. Oh, taillight paint? Sly. One thing I need to comment on is that he is incredibly short, even without comparing any other figures. Just holding it feels like a Legends figure. I think there's enough going on with the components to work in this class. Not to mention there isn't anything smaller for him to fit. We'll get more into this later. Going back into the alt mode, the one complaint I have is the front. Lining the sides up is difficult because the arms slide off the joints, and the bumper loosely slides in, so you might catch it out of place. If you keep the distance from the wheels and the arms, the wheels roll nicely. And now for a transformation tip! When you fold up the torso and prepare to bring it into the canopy, make sure the peg goes into the hole on the butt. Otherwise, nothing will work. And for weapon storage, fold this up, plug it to the spoiler, and you have the world's dumbest satellite. No wonder Pontiac went out of business. What is he even firing at? Oh, look out, a kite. The figure is small, but it's full of fun if you can get a handle of it. Some of the issues I feel are easy to work with, but could have been improved. Still, as a new version of this, I think the vehicle looks awesome. Robot mode. Jazz in robot mode certainly looks right, with the awesome proportions that make him look reasonably agile. It shows that the original deluxe figure was more clunky. However, that wonderful painted silver seems forgotten in certain areas. The unpainted gray in the legs and waist feels lame by comparison, though at least he's wearing pants. But what really sets him apart is his incredible short size. I can't even say the backpack counters the plastic usage. Look at Lockdown, he's just a shell of a man. I understand if he feels less of a deluxe, but he does feel more complex than older Legends figures. Let me ask you something, is the concern for Jazz the idea that figures are getting too small as it is, and Jazz looks like an indication things are getting even smaller? Because Jazz was small comparatively anyways, and we have larger deluxe figures to counter it. I don't think it's really anything to be concerned about, not now at least. And if you say, look at Cliff Jumper, then you're probably looking at the worst examples, because look at Ironhide. He's a huge bitch, isn't he? That head sculpt is straight Jazz. It's got the slick 5, big ears, silver paint, good mold work for the size, and a visor that you can argue has some purpose, maybe protection, or there could be some scanner underneath, but we all know it's just to look cool. Did someone say, articulation? Ball jointed head, hinge joint, hinge joint shoulders, fore and back, hinge and ball joint elbows, ball joint hips, rotation below, knee joint, and foot tilt. Articulation is pretty good if you can stand breaking the entire leg. This was the best they could do? Have the boots clip out like a glitch video game? Also, that's a lot of joints in the shoulders, and it worries me because the upper arms is made out of clear plastic that's always shifting. The madness! Other than that, dynamic poses all around! Mostly. Not to mention those heels are a massive help. I don't care if it's inaccurate or not, if you're packing some back, add some heels or slack. Let's take a look at the accessories. Jazz comes with a shield gun that has a peg allowing you to add to this hand and not the other. Gotta admit this looks strange. It's like Dr. Claw's cousin, Dr. Gotham Hand. There's also a tab hole in the back, which you can flip down either hand and plug it so it looks like it's actually a part of the figure. Not only do you forget the weird hands, but this looks really good. If it is too far out, you can flip up the other hand, plug it in, and set it further back, but I'm not concerned. Also, compensation joke. Dual wield! He could do it! He says cool place to kick it, but sadly, GM doesn't do Pontiac anymore. Do you think Jazz likes modern music? I don't know if I would be surprised. I guess he doesn't kiss ya! Jazz is a small Autobot, but it feels needed for the scale, and honestly, I think it works. There's issues I wish they could rework, but as a small deluxe, he's enjoyable. I like the style, and he should have style. I can understand why people would be concerned, but I think Jazz is a case where this works. If you just think about the size too much, you'll miss a really cool figure. If you love the original movie, Jazz is one you should add to the cast of characters. I hope DC casts him for Nightwing. Look! A version of this that doesn't hurt my eyes. Continuing the Studio Series toy line, Ratchet gets a secondary figure matching the deco scene in Dark of the Moon. Makes reasonable sense, and now you have his continued form in the same mold. As a medic, Ratchet always puts his goodwill with the Autobot cause, and... wait, we talked about his personality already. It's just more Ratchet. It's just more Ratchet! Like the film, Ratchet transforms into a Hummer modified as an all-terrain ambulance, clearly proving people aren't drones buying anything with another repaint for the corporate man to say, buy more toy! Since we've already taken a look at the mold, I'll brief you on the details and differences. In this deco, Ratchet swaps out the colors from highlighter green to marker green with a mix of sidewalk gray. With the addition of a second color, some applications miss out, like the top lights beside the bar. But good, the back windows are still intact. Still keeping the details in the bumper. Also, he does have a nice Autobot symbol with Search and Rescue Fire Department, a smaller text form of Fire Department, and a logo showing E3 but for Chads. Rail's alright, still has the hands and head if you're missing out, and peg holes to add weapons. To change it from the original, he comes with a gun you can plug on top, and don't worry, I know what I'm doing! I don't care if you don't like repaints if we have more shovels. Not sure what else I can say that hasn't already been said. If you prefer a more subtle deco, I think it needs more paint in the back, but you might like this form of Ratchet. Though, I do like the Hummer anyways, and have no issue with the paint style. Robot mode. Ratchet, I sort of argue with myself and the reasoning to purchase two of the same molds, but not just that, the same character. I think what helps is that I have a nostalgia for the first film, and the third is my favorite from the Bayverse, and Ratchet puts a smile on my face. Not to mention, we all knew this figure would release. But I can't argue, this is the same mold with new deco, I'm well aware. He still has the blocky lower arms, long sexy legs, and gurney butt, which we all know we can't have enough of. The paint gets broken up overall with two different main colors, which some would say is an improvement over the glorified neon green, but don't bring your torches and pitchforks. The original was better. As much as I like the green and appreciate more paint on the face that's certainly needed, I mean, look at the melted neon blob, but there's certain little touches that skip out completely. No paint in the shoulder lights, I missed the red stripe on the arm, and there's nothing on the feet. As well, I just find that the two colors don't blend. Say what you want about the light green, but to me, the first was pleasantly consistent. You've got massive chunks of gray and green. Maybe if they added more touches to mix the colors. I can't say they didn't try, but it's like a Lego wall you're trying to build and you run out of one color and you've got a mix of blocks. I'm glad they got the paint on the face this time. More silver was very necessary. Even if it is slapped on and the head still looks blended to the neck, but I'll take an improvement over nothing. Did someone say articulation? Head rotates, ball joint shoulders, rotation below, forward to back, elbow joint, ball joint hips, rotation below, knee bend, hinge, and ball joint foot. Same articulation, I mean it's the same mold with one exception. The hips. They stay. Yeah, the old figure was all woobly, but this one's all indubitably. I don't have a hard time actually standing him. Also more strength for the gurney ass. But from the moon! Let's take a look at the accessories. Ratchet comes with a pistol gun instead of the saw blade from the previous figure, and I think this is perfect. No green highlights, so you can take either of the two weapons and use them for either figure. Dual-wield if you like. Shoot up lockdown. That's what you get! You can plug it to the side, or with the deformed second thumb, it holds pretty well in the hand, and partly covers it. I've heard the complaint that Hasbro's trying to get scrubs to pay for the same thing twice, just for different weapons. But if you're gonna get just one weapon, why not something different in each? But no, you're right, it's wrong to pay so much just for a weapon, so I think I'll take my money elsewhere. I think I'll spend $15 with shipping on a third-party accessory with no figure. Much better. Still the same issue with the upper arm joint that should have locked in straight, and torso mouth going, ah! But he keeps the inner leg component and bumper lights. Shoulder shrug dominance! I wonder if you bring these two together, the timeline will break. Seems unlikely. If you have the previous Ratchet, you know what you're going to get. It all comes down to preference if you have to pick one. And picturing it, yes, there are more colors that could have broken up the scheme. But in hand, there's issues I have with it. I'm alright with both. I think they have things I prefer between them. If you're a fan of Ratchet, I'd say this is a figure to get. I can't make you choose which deco to go for, but I think there isn't a wrong choice. Just keep certain things in mind before. Wow, what wicked eyebrows you have. This guy's name is the stuff of legends. Shadow Raider legends. I wish I had sponsors. There was a lot of confusion as to what this figure even was. When it was first shown, people assumed this was some sort of burning lockdown. Instead, this was some character referred to as Shadow Raider, which just added to the confusion. With further information, it was discovered that Shadow Raider is inspired by the crew members and mercenaries of Lockdown's ship, which, appropriately in Age of Extinction, their model used parts from Lockdown, similar to how this figure was created. Being a repaint of Lockdown, Shadow Raider transforms into a Lamborghini Aventador, so we'll mostly be brief on this figure. But wait! Shadow Raider never did this in the film, so now I have to complain about the inaccuracy. They should have taken this out of the toy! Or better yet, who cared? Nothing says the Shadow Raider can't transform into this, but I'm curious about the bright orange. Seems pretty distant from what you'd picture from a dark figure. It's like going from a dark, mysterious entity to Grand Theft Auto Vice City. While the dark colors fit Lockdown pretty well, I love this bright orange color, completely coated in smooth paint that really highlights some of the lines in darker areas. Not sure how I feel about the clear windows, even though there's not much kibble to see, but I do like the silver under the headlights, something I complained about about Lockdown. Rolls amazingly well, and the weapon can tab onto the side because an exotic, expensive, flashy car really doesn't scream murderous soldier enough. You could also take it off and just have a rad, sexy as hell Lamborghini to play with. The Shadow Raider never showed up with the car form, so I'll take this as a bonus. I think if it had a dark color, it couldn't distance itself enough from the previous figure. Highlights a lot of the details, and I can't resist it. Other than that, not much else I can say that hasn't already been said. Robot mode. Shadow Raider is basically the same thing as the Lockdown figure with the new head and new accessory. Mostly colored in black with most of the orange going to the back aside from the random bit in the upper arm. Because why make a Transformer when everything can just get out of the way? Genius! It's like Lockdown, but not. It's a lie. It's lie down. Get up, you lazy prick! Funny enough, despite the CG model also sharing parts, the head is pretty similar to Lockdown's mask. Hell, this isn't even the same gun from Shadow Raider, which leads me to believe this could have been an alternate prototype for Lockdown, repurposed into his own crew. There's some paint applications with the gray and orange, with the main color being much darker to Lockdown, so a head and weapon swap might be distracting. Wait, is that a Decepticon logo? Someone has some explaining to do. The back of the head is the same, but that face cover is wonderful with a nice transparent green. Even the tab scene to hold it in could act as built-in scanners or something Iron Man related. Did someone say articulation? Ball jointed head, hinge, ball joint shoulders, rotation below, ball joint elbows, waist rotation, ball joint hips, rotation below, knee joint, and foot moves. Articulation is okay. In general, it's the same as expected. Certain things in the shoulders and hips get in the way, and despite the new face, the neck is still a cuck. Just look out for the shoulders in that untrustworthy transparent plastic. If you want, you can fold back the missiles and hey, it's different. Let's take a look at the accessories. Like I said, I believe this shows that this is a Lockdown prototype in disguise, as this bears a similar resemblance to the spark extractor used in the scene I prefer not to speak of. Just put the peg over the hand and tab it to the bottom for it to snap in place. Restricts the elbow and you can only use it for this arm. But if you want to tap it to the side, you're dumb. Yeah, it's another repaint thrown in, probably not the favorite, but the Decepticons or villains were pretty shafted in the Age of Extinction mainline. I think the kitty table has more dignity. I know this won't be the favorite for everyone. Other than the face and weapons, there isn't much different from the recognized Lockdown figure. If you need to add more Decepticons, however, I think this is good. There's nothing here I find wrong outside of what was expected. Hell, I like the car paint job here more than the original, but I can't look past the fact that it's looked past by more significant characters. Harmless, but there's other figures to get. Remember, even generic drones have feelings. It's true what they say. Actors look a lot different in person. As one of the only Decepticons with a spotlight in character, despite no one uttering his name in the film, Dropkick in the Bumblebee origin film acts as the muscle of the duo. Robot Jesse doesn't like Earth, but loves watching a human bubble wrap pop. In the film, Dropkick is a triple changer, going from a deep blue muscle car to a gray military helicopter. Instead of risking an overly engineered deluxe figure with so many hinges creating vastly different forms, Hasbro did the smart thing and separated it into two figures. This version of Dropkick transforms into a Super Cobra helicopter, and man, it's pretty well put together. Sure, there's gaps and such, but taking it all in with a pretty innovative transformation, it does a pretty decent job. Only thing I have trouble with is the tail that doesn't want to completely tab in. Not sure if it's something not fitting or something's misaligned. You could also see a number of joints and panel lines, but given how small, thin, and long this figure is, it's an accomplishment on its own. I love the molded detail, especially the intakes and little touches with the paint and the deeper blue, some of the tampos, and a pirate flag? Dropkick, are you the reason the rum's always gone? I love the bubbly cockpit, and then there's the hands I try to pretend aren't there. Blackout syndrome with the main propeller on a friction joint due to the transformation, but the back rotor spins freely. You can even shift the main one forward if you like. Machine guns fold away and plug under the wings using the 5mm port, and there's even an optional minigun at the front. You could also fold down the tail for pizza cutter mode. Not sure why you'd want that, but now I want a wasp repaint. Come to think of it, if TFCC was still around, a Spinister would do nicely. Oh, the missed opportunities. The rage on this guy is unbalanced, which would also describe the weight distribution. Seems like the rails are at the edge of teetering, but that's not a problem when you pick it up and go whoosh! While certainly not perfect, I love the chopper. It looks decent given how it's got an entire figure inside. Sure, a lot of the issues might sour the figure for anyone, but it can be pretty enjoyable. Robot mode. Dropkick in robot mode. Can we confirm that this is Dropkick? Because I can see it in the face. Is he wearing a mask? He's so thin, spindly, and missing some of the deeper blue highlights, while not completely devoid of it. I do think there's some reasons for it. Not saying this to forget the obvious flaws with the lack of chunk on this boy, but I'm more forgiving because I think a lot of it has to do with the alt mode. As creative and fun the transformation can be, the thin, blocky form with the gray color in the size restrains him from going full-on accurate. Combine this with the short time frame from concept to toy, and the figure suffers visually. However, playability is pretty good. If it was some other character like a movie Rotor Storm, this would be perfect. Actually, can we call this Rotor Storm? Problem solved, sluts! Not to say we don't see anything of Dropkick with that nice cockpit chest and propellers forming a blackout knockoff cape. Wait, let's actually bring out the other version of Dropkick. This is nothing like it! That head is so damn small, and I'm not sure if the silver goes well with it, but the sculpt work is really well done. Even though I don't see the Megatron in it, yeah, not sure what they mean, but it does have an angry snarl, and those beady eyes are terrifying. Did someone say, articulation? Ball jointed head, hinge joint, ball joint shoulders, rotation below, elbow bend, ball joint hips, rotation below, and knee bend. Posability is pretty good if you can get past some of the key issues. I've heard people broke the rotational joint, but if you hold close to the joint and slowly turn it, it should be alright. The kibble on the arms doesn't lock in, so it flops easily, but that just gives you easy access to the cut up your pizza mode. The propellers are also in a few joints to watch out for, as well as the rails on the legs, and these panels just do their own thing, but when you can actually get him into a pose, he looks damn good, especially with the joints in the legs. It is possible to cross his legs for him to sit back and meditate, but I don't think he's into it. Let's take a look at the accessories. He's got these rocket pods that can flip out to extend, although it's a little tricky. Not something he used in the film, but why start discussing accuracy at this point? Besides, I think he works with them, and at least he's not gonna pop some humans. What is that? Car lights in the knees? Oh, you little tease. You shifty scamp! He certainly doesn't look the part, but if you can get past that, he's actually not so bad. The transformation, for me at least, is fun, but I mostly admire how it works. I think what makes it work helps people look past the inaccuracy. Of course, the follow-up version looks more accurate to a version of this character. I'm not doubting it simply because I like this figure. I just think it's not hard to completely forget and enjoy this as a toy, because, to me, it's enjoyable. But don't show him the movie Fanatic, or I'll really throw a tantrum. At some point you gotta realize that making your own weaponized alien robots is a bad idea. Did nobody see an Arnold film? In the Transformers film, Age of Extinction, KSI decided to recreate their own product of robotic alien machines in disguise with no consciousness, but then decided to hook up the consciousness of those who started the Chicago incident. This was apparently a good idea. After somehow awakening from the mind of Megatron, which nobody saw coming because everyone is an idiot, the drones awoke in different forms to assist the reborn leader with whatever plot they made up. This version of the KSI drones, referred to as the Sentry, transforms into a Pagani Herrera, and you might be screaming that this is just a lazy cash grab and repaint of the Stinger figure. However, this is in blue, so let that be a lesson. Would have been nice if it was something different like the Chevy Trax, but the way I see it, it's potentially possible that the drone was also using a Pagani in its alt form. Unlikely, but with so many different drones and so many cars, it's easy to get lost. Besides, the KSI drones were never a significant character. All they were was Episode 1 droids. When Age of Extinction started, the mainline pushed the Decepticons aside in favor of the new Autobots and Dinobots, only giving us a few noted characters. I'm not going to be picky about this. I'll try not to retread from the Stinger review too much, but it still has major clearance issues with things barely reaching where they need to be for a full functioning vehicle. It still has the pegs for the spinners, but instead he includes a double claw that can plug on top because danger, Mad Max spoiler! Rolls, well, it's just the Stinger mold, so it's complete ass. And keep in mind the mods I did previously, shaving the tabs near the front for easier access and carefully slipping out the tabs. I will say I like the colors more here than I did Stinger, and I can already hear the one fanboy screaming, "But the red is accurate! You can't hate accurate! It's illegal!" The tone of the blue color seems to mix really well with the black highlights. And while more details should be picked out with the paint, the headlights picked out looks nice. Oh, and how can you not like the clear plastic showing off the obnoxious joint? Fantastic! You can take it or leave it, but honestly, I think the car looks so much better in this darker tone. That is, if you can actually manage getting him into alt mode. I did do similar mods to this as Stinger, so that's something to keep in mind. Otherwise, I like what I see here. Robot mode. KSI Sentry is not fooling the keen-eye Transformers fan, just being a photoshopped hue changed with the head swap. And sure, those curvy legs and bumblebee toes ruin the illusion, but does that mean it's all bad? Yes, the mold is Stinger, but as I said, the KSI robots aren't primary enough for me to be picky. I can see the shape in the chest, and I felt the Stinger didn't look slim enough. So this in black and dark blue actually seems to work in its favor. That is, if you squint, however. Is it just me, or does the color seem inspired by the Prime Viacon? I think the dark blue and black is a good choice. I do like the black color that blends into the torso. And you could put the shoulders down to make something of a difference. And why does Shadow Raider have a Decepticon logo and not this? That makes less sense! I do like the drone-style head, not just some spiky generic Decepticon. Still menacing, no emotion, but with a large visor that really stands out. Main colors with silver on the mouth and, oh? Rare light piping! And it's beautiful! Did someone say, articulation? Ball jointed head, ball joint shoulders, rotation below elbow bend, ball joint hips, rotation below knee bend, and foot moves. Posability is fairly okay. Looks good in poses, and I think it can get away with more with the clunky kibble. The armature parts on the back can move around if you want, but I don't want. Why is this still here? It's on the mushroom joint, but I don't want to risk breaking the joint. And hey, the return of a mushed car roof pretending to be a weapon. But now it comes with its own add-on kit. Let's take a look at the accessories. He comes with a dual blade with a peg you can use if you want to be wrong. However, you can open up the mushed roof and using the tabs, hold it in place and get the sidearm weapon. Gotta admit, while it wobbles, that's a pretty good way to adapt that kibble. But only if it came in a variety of colors like gray, orange, yellow, orange, red, oh wait, yellow. It's not hard to make a comparison, but I think with the darker alternate colors with the head and blades looks good for this mold. It was already a little weird with the kibble, but I think this figure actually looks good. Would be nice if it was an accurate new mold. At this point, can we always expect accurate figures with kibble in the way and repaints? But I think KSI Sentry is one mold where I prefer the not so accurate figure. Do you think he was given emotions? Does he cry watching soaps? You know, you could say Bay messed with a lot of designs, but this is a Brawl, and he will super smash your face. Brawl has lost any meaning of remorse. He is barely without a soul, just a ravenous machine breaking and crushing the Autobots. With so much in his arsenal, he won't back down so easily when his function is constant reckoning. Brawl, or Devastator for those who show off they remember the slip-up nerd, doesn't seem to care if he's outnumbered or being gunned down. All that matters is mindless chaos, explosions, and, well, I guess I know why he's in the film. Brawl transforms into a heavily armored military Abrams tank. Fun fact, the actual prop used was modified from its first appearance in another film, most notably attaching rakes on the front, because those leaves aren't gonna rake themselves on the battlefield. Perfectly invisible with 2 shades of green that really works with the bulky armor. Not a lot is picked out with additional paint apps, but it makes it look more authentic. Well, if it wasn't for the gaps. His head looks like it's ready to pop out for a goof. Saying he might be ready for combat is like saying Superman might not like kryptonite. Along with the clean-looking armor, he's got rocket launchers angled off, 2 turrets on top, and of course this sexy main turret that's so thin it feels like it could snap at the touch of a feather. Sadly, and almost criminally, really this should be an outlaw, no articulation on the main turret. Now, why would you tease us with fun we can't have? However, the back rockets are on ball joints, and if you disconnect it from the tabs, the upper section can rotate. You can even use the hinge if you want to get crazy. Inside the treads are little wheels, which roll as terrible as you think. Barrels on the back for barrel needs, and there's a flight stand port between the feet as well as the top, implying someone saw and wants to recreate the tank scene from the Liam Neeson A-Team film. Oh no, don't you dare think for a moment that I forgot about these rakes, which can move around, but I think they're supposed to be slightly down, but do whatever, I don't think any of the Brawls can make up their mind. There's also portholes on top to attach the weapons included. Just plug them on and this is awful. This is just purely awful. Why did you sully this fine gentleman? Look, I get it's a tank. Adding more weapons seemed like a good idea, but man, those are just arm stuff. Couldn't store it anywhere, all the other ones could. Might seem biased, he's not the first to do this, but you have such a good looking tank, and I mean it, the simplicity of the deco and molded detail really makes it look good. Why would you ruin it? Maybe they're just too big, maybe it's because I'm not gonna use this for anything but armament for his robot mode, maybe it's Hasbro's lack of care for weapon storage at times getting to me, so here's an idea. Throw it away. Quick note, be careful with the hinges here. I feel like I'm gonna break them every time I touch this. Things have to squeeze around it, so look out. As much as I like the green, can we get desert flavor of him? I'll admit, if you look too deep, he's not perfect. He's also not flashy, but given what they're going for, they did a pretty good job. I like the simple colors, and he is an amazing representation of the tank in the movie. Robot mode. In robot mode, Brawl retains those ridiculous elements that made him a powerful boss enemy in the start. With the chunky chest, angry face, green color, and multiple weapons, he's just not taking shit from anyone. I love how the torso transforms, with a double joint in the abdomen simply made to beef up the chest. There's a certain order of which things have to move. For example, you can't fold up the panel in the torso without the turret facing up. Sure, you can ask the instructions, but it fails so miserably, the answer is question mark. Just realized that there's a Decepticon logo that's not actually there. Notable details include the tread shoulders, back turrets that exclaim, "I am the tank!" rocket launchers on the side, and cat litter scooper titties that stick out pretty far from the torso, and you can move it in any way. Fold them down, up, or do what I did. Really doesn't seem like anyone can make up their mind, so who cares? Wish there was more silver, but it doesn't overtake the green, and no leader class turret feature, so he's got a sensor bar between the legs. Just kidding, it's blurred out. I also have to bring up the arms, not for the kibble underneath, which gross, but they're so weird. It makes them look so wide. like he's been hit by a bus a few times and his shoulders are hanging only by the joint. I guess it's closer to what he's supposed to look like though. He's also not that big, but looking up some graphs, he's actually not supposed to surpass Starscream or Megatron, so I guess it fits, but come on. Leader Brawl is still a beast! That head sculpt is full on Brawl, with its massive eyebrows that wrap the sides, beady villainous eyes, and freaky teeth I hope doesn't lunge out like a xenomorph. Did someone say, articulation? Ball jointed head, ball joint rocket, shoulders out and in, forward to back rotation below, elbow swing, elbow joint, hips out and in, forward to back rotation below, and knee bend. Posability works pretty well, but the side joint in the elbow messes with me when I'm trying to move him. And the rotational joints are scary, especially in the legs. I can feel it warp inside. But I do like the spike that sticks out in the joint. And don't worry, unlike the stock images, he doesn't need dimes to stand. Let's take a look at the accessories. Brawl comes with his sidearm weapons, which can be stored on the back, but why would I ever do that? Do I look like a fool? Maybe. But this should be on his arms. You could also plug it into the hand, but that makes people cry. On the side, he carries an arm claw with a minigun that detaches. On the other is a 4-barrel gun, which continues to make him look awkward. But wait. What am I expecting from a Bayverse toy? Why am I complaining about this? Oh yeah, because I don't want to think about what's between his legs. Now he looks like a brutal machine ready to wind up and unleash his fury. You can also bring up the cannons because why not? I don't care if it's not accurate when he's got such a long prolapse on him. I think I've gravitated too closely to the original toy design that seemed much more in line, that this lumpy monster really feels off. Combine that with the size, that's not really the fault of the toy, and it leaves more to be desired. But I'll admit, it's actually really good once you get into it. A lot of the details are really well made. Brawl is nostalgic. He's a creature filled with weapons, and you know what he's all about. He's here to destroy. And what more could you expect from this character? He should not be in the China store.
Meanwhile, in the Superman 2 reference...
This is no fantasy, no careless product of wild imagination. No, my good friend, this is simply Hollywood-bathed garbage on the spoils of an old cartoon's name brand.
I'm sensing some hostility towards my good work.
In the seeds placed before you for passionate people, you shifted them into weeds and terraformed it into something we hardly recognize. That is why the Council on Man-Children will judge appropriately.
Michael Bay, I wish I was there, but I just don't feel like it. So something was brought up to our attention, and even though we're a little late to the game, we wanted to talk to you about your interpretations. Now, I don't mind different interpretations of regular characters, but there's a few questionable things, like what's going on with Galvatron. He just looks like pointy Megatron.
Barricade was a pink and blue Micromaster, but nobody thinks of that. Nobody really cares. And now, because of you, they just think of a police car.
Yeah, but it looks rad as hell.
Yeah, he's got a point.
Yes, but I'm still mad. Also, what's with Hot Rod? Why did you ruin my childhood?
Did you even grow up with G1?
Does that matter?
Oh, lads, are we still doing this?
This man has an incredible beard. I trust him already.
Look, sure, the movies weren't perfect. We know this. Sure, Hot Rod looked like a dumbass, bulgy-eyed parrotfish. But do you really think he was out to ruin anyone's childhood? You think maybe his priorities were just in a different place? I mean, the movies maybe didn't work out exactly like we wanted them to, but they rejuvenated the brand in a big way. Is it really worth still being mad about? Was it all bad? Really?
No, but we could have had this.
Yep. Enjoy the space mirror.
I'll get you next time, Gadget. Next time.
Look, I don't actually hate everything in the Bay films. There's some good ideas, but after a while, you just get numb to the idea of constantly changing characters that you don't even recognize. I wanted to see a different director take the mantle and see if the classic designs could hold up a film. With Travis Knight at the helm of the Bumblebee film, those classic designs show up for a brief time, but I think it was the refresher we all needed. I really didn't expect to see Brawn, but oh, I screamed. And when Optimus Prime stormed in for the first time, we all knew we were in for a real treat. This is exactly what we wanted to see. As a bonus, this form also received a toy, which I have to thank Justin Yates for sending this out. Crazy enough, Optimus Prime doesn't transform into the Freightliner based on either the cartoon or the film Cab. We can only speculate it was either truly Optimus in the film, or just another truck on the bridge. Even the Bay films got that right for a moment. But it's still a flat-nosed cab with legs on wheels. I can hear the parents sigh when they prepare for their kids to scream, "It's Optimus Prime!" This was the year of the Optimus. We got a few Generations figures, retread of an obscure line, movie molds, even a new masterpiece, and a repaint that messes with the undead. Yes, even when the arms, legs, and torso are classic in configuration, it still manages to change up how to get from point A to B. It's such a powerhouse, a stone wall that can't be torn down, to protect, but also to be used as a brick to crash Megatron's window. The cab comes together to form the red and blue father figure truck, and that silver rectangular grille that imprints on Decepticons. Windows might be a smidge small, but when the essentials are right, it puts a smile on my face. Check out the divots, painted window wipers, and smokestacks sandwiched on the back just to change things up a little. But it's still a movie figure, and you can see some robot greeblings seeping through the cracks. There's a massive gap on the back, but at least it avoids feet cargo. If it's not too much trouble, can I get some silver painted rims? Oh, that's nice. Rolls amazingly well, and you can take the weapon to store it in the back, but that's not a trailer. You can't fool me so easily, Hasbro. It's a basic 5mm port on the hitch, so you can practically use anything. Ratchet's arm thing, Jetfire's pack, you name it. Even with the smaller gap, I can throw in the Dark of the Moon trailer. You can slide it on top if you're into that, I won't judge. I have managed to slip it inside the legs. I feel they could have compressed the blaster and make great use of the emptiness. But it's only one thing we're missing out. It's like taking the pretzels out of the munchies. It's whatever, bro. Really solid, feels like a fist plowing through. You can flip up the front end, that looks like a face of nightmares. George wants his rent money. He's not too happy. You can fold down the smokestacks because I have no idea why you'd want that. Why ruin it? Just put an Autobot symbol here. That's all I'm asking. This feels right. There's a few tabs that could have worked better, but most of that isn't disrupting the play and joy of the truck. This is pure Optimus Prime right at a glance. Looks good, and I couldn't ask for more out of it. Robot mode. This is purely made to be Optimus Prime. It respects everything what the original character so many grew up and wanted to see on the big screen without changing to gray and making the little kids cry well into their adulthood with a traumatic event in front of their eyes. Not to say I hate the original film style, actually seems to be one of the more popular redesigns, but you can tell the level of respect with his roots with the square window chest, colors of red and blue simply in the right order, and even the ventilations in the legs. Praise by blind nostalgia. As soon as Optimus Prime stormed on screen, it was a breath of fresh air, yet I get told how people need to move on from the cartoon or these designs are outdated. But look at the thing! This is your champion! You could try to paint it white and call it Magnus, black to call it Nemesis, or purple to call it Evil, but why try and fool me? The energy is his own. Now let's complain about it. I feel the outward hips should be tightened, might just be mine, and there's a bump of plastic that hits the head around the neck, making it difficult to move. While the back cleans up well, you can see the sides are sticking out, hitting the arm panels, but that just means they're more to love, and I've seen worse kibble. These shoulder panels move out of the way in and out, but during its rotation tends to hit something, but the biggest upset has to be the legs. The tabs don't form a solid connection, so things just open up, especially when the feet are flattened. It's mostly aesthetics until the back tab slides out. Then you're in trouble, and black hands, ugh. You were so close, but childhood is ruined. You also get hip skirts, a weird rotation in the arm due to transformation, and no, that circle is not another joint, it is only there to lie to you. Like in the alt mode, the smokestacks move for no reason. If you can think of any reason as to why they did this, email me at why. Check out the silver wash that brings out the detail in the abdomen, cylinders that get stuck in the legs, and what are those things? I don't know, but I'm mesmerized. There's also these little panels that fold up as a bonus something for your troubles, and the chest can open to reveal nothing. You've been hoodwinked. 2. Head is nearly perfect. I had no complaints on the original film design, but looking at this really shows how they changed up the square shape. Iconic ears, stern bold eyes, yet missing out on the cat mouth in the plate. Did someone say articulation? Ball jointed head, shoulders out and in, forward and back rotation below, elbow bend, wrist rotation, waist rotation, hips out and in, forward and back rotation below, knee bend, foot forward and back, and tilt. With the quality issues and quirks in mind, posability is really good, and he looks wonderful if his feet doesn't collapse on the weight of his righteousness. It's on par with the Siege line. Speaking of which, I don't think Studio Series will release Bumblebee movie versions of the majority of the characters in those Cybertron scenes, considering Siege seems to pretty much fill in the gaps. Let's take a look at the accessories. Optimus Prime comes with a very classic Ion Blaster stylized for the film design. Just a chunk of black plastic, but just enough for Prime to wet your whistle. Also has side pegs that can attach to the back for storage. Look, Bumblebee leaves more to be desired, but give him the Spider-Verse shoulder touch and get massive cool points. You know what? This honestly looks like how it should have ended Optimus Prime after combining with Jetfire. Does no one else see it? I have to make it clear, I don't hate the Bay film designs overall, especially for Optimus Prime, but looking at this makes me really think about what we could have had. This works on numerous levels, and I can't think otherwise. Sure, it has its problems, but it respects the character so well from his cartoon to film representation to toy that I can't help but say they should feel proud of what they've created. This is an amazing representation of a heroic, legendary warrior in toy form. Only way he could be better is if he said the booby word. Hey, I want to say thanks to those who watched Studio Series Month. This is dedicated to Autism Acceptance Month. As someone who has autism, I felt like I was very misunderstood growing up. I felt that certain people who found out that I had autism looked at me differently as compared to when they didn't think I had autism. So this is to the people who felt misunderstood and didn't feel like they were reaching their full potential. You definitely deserve a voice. I want to send a big thanks to Justin Yates for sending out the Studio Series Bumblebee Optimus Prime. I want to send a big thanks to Larry Arts Productions for providing the voice of Optimus Prime, Mason from I Am Amazing Mason for providing the narrator voice, and I want to send a big thanks to Diamond Bolt and Theo for cameoing in this video. I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.